Warning: this podcast discusses paranormal activity and other topics some might find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everybody. This is your host, Ashley.
And your co-host, Daniel. I'm back, y'all.
And welcome to Ghost Gossip.
Welcome.
Welcome. How are y'all doing? We are back, and we were on spring break. Yep. We got away for a little while. If you hear a little bit of an echo, we redid my office. I don't have a rug in here yet. I have nothing on the walls, and it's a little echoey.
We want to give the fresh walls some time before we start puncturing them.
Yes, we need to let them heal all the way before we start just hanging everything up. And I'm going to get some sound panels. So eventually I'm going to have this sound thing figured out. Maybe in another year, I'll have the whole sound thing and this podcasting thing figured out. We were talking about it. I've been doing this for about a year, a little over a year. And I'm self-taught on everything that I've done. So I think I've done fairly well considering I've had no formal training. I am my own producer. I have gone through mics and testing things, and I think I've done okay.
You've done well, and I'm zero help. I'm just here for comedic relief and personality. and in-depth insight.
In-depth insight.
Mm-hmm. I'm more of a consultant host.
A consultant?
Yeah.
But aren't consultants like professionals?
Yes.
What are you a professional at?
Advice giver.
Like at what?
Knowing everything.
Mumbling.
Mumbling and.
Mumbling. He's a mumbler.
I'm from the South, y'all. I just talk the way I talk.
Yes, we are both from the South, but he's a little bit more.
I'm country.
He's more country than I'm. I don't know what I am.
You're a city girl.
I am. I'm more city than he is, but I love the country. But anyway, so what we're doing today, I posted on my socials a question box and asking for you to ask me anything. And we are here to answer the questions that were submitted. So thank you for everybody that submitted questions.
Thank you. Oh, I was just throwing in a thank you.
Oh, it sounded like thank.
No, I was just throwing in a thank you.
Just thank.
Thank you.
There you go. There's the you. So thank you. And we appreciate it. I'm in the process of gathering some more listener tales, listener episodes, listener happenings, but I only have like one right now. So I'm going to wait until I have maybe one or two more, and then I'll be releasing a new listener happenings episode. So we're going to start with our questions. And the first one is more for Daniel, I believe, because I am not a big conspiracy person. So this one's for Daniel. Is there a favorite crazy-ass conspiracy theory that you love hearing about or believe in?
Yes, and I don't believe that it's a conspiracy theory, which is probably kind of the preamble or the prerequisite for you believing in a conspiracy theory.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that's how most conspiracy people are.
So I believe this is true, and I think there's research and evidence to back it up, but I believe that human civilization goes back anywhere from 15 to 30,000 years ago before the last ice age. There's been more recent discoveries evidencing this, and I think this ties in with the paranormal, more of it probably in a scientific way, but there were technologies and things that they had access to that we no longer have access to. So maybe different technology, maybe different recognition of different senses, things like that.
Do you mean like that show we watch on Netflix that William Shatner hosts?
No, that's
like
not,
with the Egyptians and the pyramids, and they can't explain them.
Well, that's part of it, but the guy that I follow most on this, his name is Graham.
Is that the guy on Instagram?
No.
No.
I can't remember his last name. Graham Norton or Graham Horton.
Norton or Horton or...
Yeah, Horton Here's a Who.
That's what I was about to say.
He's done a lot of research, a lot of diving on sites. He's done a lot of archaeological digs, traveling around the world. and researching these different places, and the more research that is done is leading to evidence of earlier civilizations previously thought with advanced technology.
Interesting.
Totally on board with it 100%. I think it's absolutely fascinating.
And this isn't a question, but if you ask me, what are some things that you didn't know about your husband? That is the first thing I would now say, is that I did not realize he believed in really early on civilization before the Ice Age. So you learn something new every day.
I've got a book on in the bedroom.
Is that book you bought that you only read like 5 pages of?
I fell asleep. I got 12 pages in
12
it. I got 12 pages in it and I fell asleep. It's really thick.
Yes, and it's been on my bookshelf with all my, what does Daisy call it? My bad word books.
I just moved it over there last week.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No,
yes,
you didn't.
I did. It's been on my dresser. When I cleaned my
Second
dresser
question.
off. No, we're going to stop here. When I cleaned my dresser off last week, when getting ready for the cruise, I moved it over there.
That was 2 weeks ago.
Okay, same difference. Spring break doesn't count.
It's a non-week.
Yeah.
Okay, that week just doesn't exist anymore. Okay, next question. I don't know if I believe in anything bizarre, but the question is, what is the most bizarre paranormal concept your brain will let you entertain? Like you?
I've got my hand up.
Oh, no, I meant like, you have your finger pointing at the ceiling. Like, I wish y'all could see him. He raised his hand, like pointed his
I
finger.
thought you were going to call on me.
What? We're not in school. Well,
I'm hot for teacher.
Oh my gosh. Okay, what is the most bizarre paranormal concept your brain will let you entertain?
Oh, is it my turn now?
Oh my.
So
I'm going to give up.
So for me, it would be time travel.
Time travel. That's more like sci-fi. But you believe time travel exists?
I believe there's a possibility.
Second question. What's the second newest discovery you've learned about your husband? That he believes in time travel.
Well, it's not, I don't think that time travel exists yet, but it just fascinates me to think about how it might possibly exist, under what parameters it might be done. Is it through a sense that we have? Is it through technology? I don't know. It just fascinates me, the possibilities of how that might be. I mean, if you think about it, are ghosts not time traveling?
Probably. Some people believe that they live on another realm or another dimension, and that they could be like some of the ghost shows I watch, like Haunting Nights or Haunted Nights. Those guys are great. Steve and Dylan, they're really great. But they talk about how the realms are parallel.
So like a multiple transparencies on an overhead projector.
Kind of, right. And they're crossing somehow. Somehow they're crossing.
Your younger listeners may not understand what an overhead projector and transparencies are.
I don't know if I have any younger listeners. Most of my listeners are about our age. But yes, younger. Come as one of my favorite podcasters, Ellen Marsh, says, come around the campfire, children. Now we will explain overhead projectors.
We'll all sit and look at the wall.
We stare at a wall and we put clear paper, plastic really, with usually some kind of black ink
vis-a-vis
on the plastic and put it on a projector that shines light at the wall, and whatever's on the projector shines on the wall. And that's what we had in school.
It's basically literary shadow puppets.
Yes, it is shadow puppets for math. But yes, so they talk about it a lot on their shows, that what if you had at one time or another, like you say the 50s, and these people are going about their life in a psychiatric unit or in a hospital or a house, and then all of a sudden they're going about their life, and then they hear people talking, and it's Steve and Dylan who are ghost hunting, but their realms or their dimensions are crossing somehow, and so they're pretty much haunting each other.
Yeah, that's one of the theories behind other dimensions and time travel, is that every possibility exists in the universe, I guess.
Right, universe.
So time travel could be possible by jumping from
dimension,
one dimension to to another.
I think that's probably the most bizarre paranormal concept that my brain will entertain, is that there's different dimensions.
That's what string theory is.
Don't know a thing about string theory, but I know you've talked about it before, and I just kind of stare at you like, don't know what you're talking about, but I'm going to smile and nod because I'm trying to be a good wife.
It's more the physics side of
Oh, yeah.
us.
Nope.
Which I don't claim to know a lot about physics or the math behind that, but I know that string theory is part of that. It's more the physics side of the parallel dimensions.
Yeah, I think that's probably not the only, because here I am, I think my house is haunted, so I can't say like that's the only crazy thing that my brain will entertain, but that's probably the fact that multiple dimensions. But there's also like, I think one of the other bizarre concepts that I might believe in that some people might think is bizarre is that I think sometimes you can lucid dream and that takes you to another dimension. Like I believe I astral projected into the road outside of our house one day because I was asleep and all of a sudden I was in the front yard and I was standing on the pavement in front of the house. And I could feel the pavement on my bare feet. And I panicked because I was like, why am I outside in my pajamas in the middle of the road? And this is when we had your truck. And I was in front of the truck. And I looked up and the truck was parked there. And I looked back at the house and everything was as it is. And I came inside and it was like, why am I not in bed? And then all of a sudden my eyes opened and I was in bed. So it was almost like I was lucid dreaming and then I astral projected and then I was awake. It was very weird.
That's why I say time travel is paranormal, because I think that it may not just be technology that makes time travel a possibility. It may be some type of supernatural phenomenon.
Yeah. I've had very lucid dreams before, like about past loved ones, and it's almost like our dimensions are crossing. I feel like sometimes when I dream, I'm in another place, but I'm awake. The lucid dreams are wild to me, and I'm not the only one that has them. And also another thing that I think is crazy is, and maybe this doesn't go to this question, and we're only on question number 2. But another thing that I find wild is sleep paralysis. And if you talk to anybody that has sleep paralysis, myself included, everything's very similar. Everybody experiences a very similar event where you're paralyzed, you feel like something dark is over you, you can't move, but you feel this sense of heavy and this sense of dread and almost like something like I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it because it was probably one of the most terrifying, the things. I mean, you were there with me, watching me, waking me up or touching me, trying to get me out of it when I'm screaming and praying and saying, no, but yet I can't move. I mean, it's terrifying. But it's almost like everybody that experiences like that kind of sleep paralysis, they all do the same thing. Like if you read stories, it's all very similar, which I find wild.
That reminds me of, I don't know I think it was maybe a study or maybe that was just a collection of people who, it was either DMT or mushrooms or something. It was
LSD?
No, it wasn't LSD. It was a psychedelic though. I think it was DMT.
Sounds like acid.
But LSD is acid.
Oh, sorry.
But DMT is a different hallucinogenic.
Got it.
But
I've never done drugs, everybody, so I don't know what he's talking about.
But
how do you know?
I've never done DMT. These people who took it, many of them have reported seeing the same type of, I guess, universe, meeting the similar types of beings. Like it's like almost like a pathway.
It's weird.
To these, but they reported very oddly similar people from all over the world, different times, different decades, but the reports are eerily similar.
Right. And that's kind of like the sleep paralysis. Yeah. Or like, I've said this before, and we were talking to the kids one day about it. It's like if you look at every culture to prehistoric days and every religion, they have some kind of experience with something unexplainable, spirit or energy or something. It's not just our generation or the people that are alive now. It can be traced back centuries of paranormal or unexplainable or spiritual encounters. It's wild. It's fascinating to me. You ready for the next one?
I'm ready.
What do you think makes people more sensitive to spirits or the paranormal?
What I believe, the first thing that comes to my mind is people's belief. And the reason I say that is because I believe that people who believe in paranormal or are more spiritual are more attuned and more sensitive and are able to acknowledge those things and see them and experience them. Not that they're creating them, but that they have more recognition of them.
Right. The first time we talked about this, he said that, and I just kind of like turned my head at him like, excuse me, do you mean we make it up? And he's like, no. I was about to get real salty. I was like, we don't make it up. But I understand what he's saying. Like, if you believe in it, then you're more aware of it.
It's okay to use an example. When we're driving down the road or walking around someplace, you don't notice HVAC units.
No, not at all.
I'm walking by and I'm not even trying.
And you're like, look at that unit. The whole time in Arkansas, look at that unit.
Yeah, I'm more attuned to it because I operate in that realm. And so if you are somebody who believes more and is researching it, I believe that opens you up to be more available, I guess, as well. But also just to see things from that perspective.
I also believe David, one of my guests on the show last October, we talked about trauma. Trauma experiences kind of opening you up because when you suffer a traumatic event, your psyche almost goes through
a metamorphosis.
Yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it. You're going about your life, and then all of a sudden, everything that you know to be true usually is not anymore. And you're forced to heal, you're forced to feel, you're forced to do all of these. And you usually start feeling on a deeper level.
You're suddenly thrown completely out of your comfort box. Forcefully.
Yes, and unexpectedly, normally. If it's traumatic, it's usually something not planned. And I know for me, I went through several traumatic experiences, but he had conversations with other people that he knew that they believed that trauma can cause you to be more sensitive to everything, which I totally agree, because if you go through traumatic things, you're usually more aware of your feelings and those around you, but it also opens you up to the things around you, that the energies, the vibrations, the frequencies. And I believe that as well, because I have a slew of friends that are sensitive, quote unquote sensitive. They're very spiritual. They're more open-minded, but the one thing that we all have in common, we were all raised differently. We're from different religions, but we have all suffered traumatic events. And that is one thing that we all have in common. And, I've had Jenny on the show and she's been through some stuff and we've talked about that before, and she has agreed. She's like, yeah, that makes sense. So it's one of those things. It's like, I think that can make people more sensitive. I think like you say, it's your beliefs. I also think it's how you're raised too. If you are raised in a house where you're not shut down, like my parents didn't shut me down when I had weird things happen to me. They didn't say I was crazy. They didn't say I was making it up or had imaginary friends, or I didn't experience, like even when I talk to my parents today, you've seen them, they stop, they sit, they listen, and they're like, wow, what else happened? Or why do you still live there? Or are you not scared? They never shut me down. And so I think living in a house or in an environment that allows the imagination to not shut down, to not close it off. And so you become an adult that allows your imagination to go, which I think sometimes your imagination can take you places that maybe aren't reality.
Sure.
But I think when you are allowed to explore those feelings and those thoughts and those curiosities, you become more open.
Yeah. And as you were talking about that point before about the trauma, what I was thinking about is after a traumatic event, our natural human inclination is to try to get back to equilibrium after that trauma.
Sure.
But to get back there is a process. And For some people, it's a lifelong process. And during that process, it forces you to become very vulnerable and to reevaluate a lot of things
that you thought you knew.
And that, just like you were saying with the environment as well, that requires you, or with your environment, it can either allow you or hinder you from being more open-minded. But the process of recovering from any kind of traumatic event also opens you up to possibility, but it can also
close you off.
So I think in the same way, it's that process that can either open you or close you off to the possibilities that it may or may not exist in the universe.
Well, and I think you can go back to how you're raised too, because just like trauma, if you are raised, and I don't want to take it too far into this, but if you're raised in a house that doesn't promote communication and doesn't promote feeling your feelings and say, get over it and shut up, you're also going to be more closed off as an adult.
Well, probably so.
Yeah. And we know that. We know people. Or if you shut people down, like, that's not real, that's not real, that's not real. You're going to become an adult that anytime anything happens that's beyond what you can physically see, touch, and understand, it's not real.
Well, I think a lot of that too is because I think part of why people are like that is not necessarily because they're trying to be negative. It's a expression of self-preservation.
Fear. It's out of fear.
And our fear response as humans it's
fight or flight.
It's based off of self-preservation. We learn to fear things because it protected us from things.
True. All right.
I think that's, people that can't explain things, it scares them.
And they just shut it down.
And so they shut it down to preserve themselves from exploring that and being scared or being fearful of going into the unknown.
I get that. Okay, next one. Are there any spirits that you would like to stay in touch with, famous or personal? Do you have any? Because
I'll let you answer that because I'm still thinking about this. I know my nanny for sure.
Which one?
Nanny,
Freddie?
Yep.
She's in the closet.
Yeah, I would love to just, like, every time I'm watching baseball, I just wish she was sitting beside me.
Right. Well, I think mine is Papa Sam, of course, and Catherine. Those are personal. I don't talk to them in ways that are typical for our society, but I still talk to them. But I wish I could stay in contact with them. Catherine was one of my dearest friends, and we had amazing conversations when we were younger. And she truly, losing her at age 17, 18 really was one of the most traumatic experiences that I have ever gone through as a young adult. And that's actually, as an adult, that was the most traumatic death I've ever experienced. And then my Papa Sam, I didn't really have a really close relationship with my grandparents, and my Papa Sam just adored me. And he was so special to me. He's the one that I believe sends me dimes. And what was in my wallet the other day? I haven't found a dime in months, but
a bunch of dimes.
A bunch of dimes had accumulated at the bottom of my wallet, and I haven't found any in months. And usually when I find dimes, what do I do with them?
You save them.
But where do I put them?
Do you put them in your purse?
No, I put them in my jar.
Oh, yeah, you got your dime jar.
My dime jar. That's and right. So I had a bunch of dimes in the bottom of my purse, and I'm like, well, that's funny because I haven't found a dime in months. So they were all in the bottom of my wallet, just sitting there, all lined up in a line.
You've been finding twin pennies.
I've been so I found, I got a fortune, and it said that the heavens will send me messages in pennies.
This is a fortune cookie.
From
Oriental House.
From the Oriental House in Greenville.
Great food.
I do not believe in fortune cookies, but it was such a sweet little fortune. And because I find dimes, I kept the fortune. It's actually in my phone case. And it's heaven will send me messages in the form of pennies. And I started finding pennies in the twos.
Always a set of pennies.
A set of pennies. And the craziest place I found them was at Zaxby's. We're sitting there just talking. And the day before I found 2 at Chick-fil-A. And the day before that, or a few days before that, I found 2. I can't remember where we were. And then we were sitting at Zaxby's before we went down to Florida to leave on our cruise. Mm-hmm. And my eyes focused in, and right next to Daniel's head at the window were 2 pennies. Mm-hmm. And he's like, that's just weird.
Yeah. I was just like, okay, we're going to have a safe drive there and a safe drive back.
That's right.
We got somebody's looking over us while we're driving.
That's right. So. Yep. Yep, they were. And we did. We got back safely and we had a great time. Thank you, Royal Caribbean.
I'm trying to think of someone from history, like a historical figure.
I don't have anybody. All right. We can come back if you think of one. If you could go on any ghost adventure or ghost hunt, where would it be and why? This is probably more directed at me.
Yeah, I would say not just like the Egyptian tombs, but like
Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah.
But all across the world, like the catacombs.
No.
And is that France, Paris?
I think the catacombs is in France.
Yeah. So like the catacombs, I believe I want to say there's some kind of like catacomb type thing on a coast somewhere. It's like a coastal cave where they used
You in those small spaces. No, thank you.
So like, but yeah, like tombs, places like that. Maybe Civil War grave sites.
We are so different.
Battlefields, stuff like that.
Oh, goodness. So I would like to go. There's some places that I would like to go. I would like to go to the Stanley Hotel out in Colorado, I believe.
See, I don't know places like that.
Well, that is where The Shining was written by Stephen King.
I would definitely go there.
And he...
Ram.
Well, it's not based on a true story, but he went to the Stanley Hotel, and it was, I believe, in the winter, and it was kind of slow, and I'm not sure if he was one of the few people, and correct me if I'm wrong, not you, but other people listening, and I'm not sure if he was having a writer's block or if he had started maybe thinking about The Shining, but while he was there, he wrote that book while he was at the Stanley Hotel. And the Stanley Hotel, we went to the Crescent, and that was like my top, and that was fantastic. The scratches on the ceiling is still one of the most fascinating and that was wild.
That was bizarre.
That was wild. The fact that he experienced that with me, I was so glad. But that's one, and they all say they're the most haunted hotels in America. And, you can't have more than one, but they say that the Stanley is one of the most haunted hotels in America. And I think that's fascinating. And then I was watching the Paranormal Files, and I really like Colin because he goes so in depth into the history of these places. And that's fascinating to me because you and I both love history.
Yeah, I love the history.
And so Colin... The ghost hunt, it's entertaining, but they start screaming and they're just kind of like, okay. And I like them. They're entertaining and I fall asleep to them all the time. And I'm not sure if you turned my phone off, but okay, I was wondering. But I
come in the room and I'm like, what is this noise?
I fall asleep watching ghost
screeching
hunts.
And screaming. I'm like,
it's the REM pods. But his newest video is at the Ashmore Estates. And the history was fascinating. So they talked about how it used to be a poorhouse. It used to be I believe, a hospital and then an old folks home. And the way that the tour guides in his videos are just phenomenal. And they go into all this history and it almost normalizes the place and welcomes the spirits. And it doesn't seem scary. And that's what I like. That's what I liked about the Crescent. It wasn't scary, demonic, blah, blah, blah. It was just... you had this energy there. And that's what I'm really drawn to. So I would like to go to the Ashmore Estates, the Stanley Hotel. And of course, you're going to have people that say all the time, like, oh, it's dark. But I truly also believe that you kind of attract the energy in which you put out. Your frequency attracts the like frequency. And so if you're kind of like a dark or negative energy and you put that out in the world, you might attract that.
Well, as you were saying that, like another place that came to mind was, Auschwitz, the concentration camps. And the reason I say that is because like those places and like battlefields, horrible things happened.
Oh, yeah.
But to feel the energy that I know would be present and very heavy in places like that, I think that I would also be able to feel the good energy, the hope, the goodness that happened there, even in those horrible circumstances. And I think that would be incredible to feel. I've been to the Holocaust Museum.
Oh my God. Did you see me Googling that?
Mm-mm. No, I've been to the Holocaust
That's
Museum.
what I was Googling because that's what I was going to ask you if you've been to. Look.
Yes, it is in D.C.
That's the one I've been to in D.C.
Yeah, it's a very, very sombering experience.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Oh my gosh. I was going to say, have you been to the Holocaust Museum? Because that place is so...
You can feel it.
You can feel... that is so weird. Daniel and I do this all the time, but it is so sometimes about the most random things. But there is no sign in that museum telling you no talking, but you can hear a pin drop. People just don't speak. Yeah. It is so moving,
and that's just
emotional,
and that's just a lot of the possessions and history.
Yes, that's all that energy,
like being on the physical ground,
but it's
the actual place. Like that would be.
But it's also the people that are going there, and some of them, those are their family members and their heritage, and they feel so deeply, and you're also feeling the energy they're putting out, that sorrow, that mourning, and so
but also that overcoming.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, that place is, I mean, it's amazing. It is definitely some place to go just to appreciate what the people went through. I mean,
the brevity of it.
Oh, anyway. Okay. Oof, we got deep there for a second. Man. Okay. Do you think spirits are typically more malicious or more as protectors? No, I think we just talked about this. I think it really is what you believe in and what you kind of put out in the world. But I have run into darkness since we lived in this house, but I've also run into love and light and protection. And so I think there's a little bit of both.
I think there's definitely both, but I think overall, just like with everything else, there's a very wide spectrum.
Right? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right? So I think a lot of times what we experience is the extreme of one end or the other. But I think for the most part, the paranormal phenomenon, whether it's ghosts, spirits, energy, frequency, I think for the most part, they're neutral.
Do you think that people, if they do become spirits or energy that's left over in the world once they pass, do you think that they become kind of like a version of themselves? So if you're kind of an evil or mean-spirited person, if your energy is left over in the world, that it is more of a dark presence versus like light protection? Like if you're kind of like a bubbly person and you're kind of, you have a remnants here and it's more of a positive energy?
Now, when I say that I believe that most are neutral, I also believe that if there's ghosts and spirits left behind, I think that there's a reason why that is the case.
Like unfinished business?
Well, it could be any number of things. And what I believe is the reason why they are in the state that they're in can determine their goodness or malevolence.
Okay, kind of in the same, not really the same.
But I would say, to answer your question directly, I would say that more often than not, people that were quote unquote bad or evil or ill-intentioned in life, more often than not, if they are a spirit or ghost after they pass away, are probably more malicious.
Wayne.
Whereas people who are
bastard,
or people who are more good-willed and giving and loving and caring, they're also going to be more that way in the afterlife. But take someone who is that way, who was done wrong. Now they may be a malevolent spirit.
They're angry.
Correct, right? They were.
Because you've heard, we've all heard stories of they were fine and then they lost somebody tragically, or something happened to them, or they were murdered, or
someone was ill-willed, ill-spirited in their real life, and then after their death, they have this enormous guilt and they want to try to correct what they did wrong.
Yeah. So
I think it works both ways.
Do you believe in possessions? That's the next question. Jenny and I talked about this. She believed her ex was possessed.
This is a question I've always kind of gone back and forth in my head, if I'm honest.
You've thought about this before?
Oh, yeah. My whole life.
Another thing I learned about my husband today. I think I know some people that might be possessed right now by evil. So
I believe for sure that there are people who are naturally just evil.
Narcissistic psych abuse.
Yes.
That's a new term I learned today.
But I definitely believe, because there's always the argument of nature over nurture, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, but I do believe that there are people that are just born and they're evil from the get-go. And there's no...
They don't need to be possessed by anything.
Exactly. And there's no... What I, in my logical reasoning brain, think that one of the reasons for possession, the term possession, is because that's what people in history have categorized those people as being possessed, right? Or somebody who has a traumatic event and they have a break from reality.
I think some possessions, quote unquote possessions, are mental health breakdowns, like mental health issues that are untreated, that just kind of, they build up, and then that person, you can only take so much and then they break, and it might seem like they're possessed, but I believe there's a ghost living in my upstairs guest bedroom. I can't say that I don't think that people can't be possessed.
So that's, and I would say that's kind of the side I lean toward now, is that the term possession and everything that kind of surrounds possession in a religious context is how past cultures and past societies have described that evil or that psychotic break or
because way back when
that mental illness. I don't so much believe as in demons and spirits inhabiting a person. I definitely lean more away from that.
Like I said, I can't say that it doesn't happen, because when we moved into this house, we noticed a definite change in one of our children. More aggressive, more angry, more violent and dark. And it has since passed. But like I said, that could be depression. That could be a mental health break. It was a lot of stress. It was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of change. It could have all been a little bit of everything. But the moment we saged the house and we started blessing the house regularly, that quality in our daughter went away.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that.
But I think there was some darkness attracting darkness there.
And I think and particularly in that case, I think that was more of a reaction to what was going on.
Possibly.
And I think that is much more likely than an actual
demonic possession.
Yeah, or because most of the time when you hear possession, it's in a negative context, which when I think about that, leads me to believe that is more on the mental illness side, or somebody who's just born evil, right? Whereas you don't hear of somebody all of a sudden just becoming much more gracious and being possessed. And so that's why one of the reasons I lean more that way.
Okay, well, let's move right into this, because this kind of goes into the religious side, because I think possession kind of came from, and I don't know this for sure because I am not super religious, but Christianity and religion, when somebody is mentally ill, or maybe there's something not quite right with them, they couldn't be just mentally ill. They couldn't be, that's just who they are. They were possessed. What is your theory on Christianity and believing in ghosts?
So going back to what you were talking about with the possession and Christianity, I think that's what most people think of. But if you look at different cultures throughout history, and even now, they believe in forms of possession.
Right, but this is just a separate question.
I know, but I'm just saying that's not just limited to Christianity, and I don't think.
Well, I wasn't saying that.
I know. I'm
right. I was just saying that kind of possession, I think, kind of came from. Now, like I said, I don't know, but I think possession kind of came from religion. Like, there's something wrong with them; they must be possessed by the devil.
Yeah, exactly. I think possession is, for the most part, in a religious context, but I think that's the same throughout history. And like I said, even now today, certain tribes, certain peoples, they believe in possession in their religious context.
But what is your theory on Christianity and believing in ghosts? Because I know we have come across a lot lately where people are like, if you're a Christian, you can't believe in ghosts, or that's bad, or you're going to attract something dark. And oh my gosh, it goes on. Or you can't believe in ghosts and be a Christian.
Well, here's what I would say. This is my rebuttal. I'm not going to sit here and say that, it's one way or the other. What I would say is look at the different stories in the Bible.
Well, right. And I kind of like it. You can believe that there's a God and there's a devil and there's angels, but you can't believe that there are spirits.
Well, even more than that. So
that's kind of where I fall. And I'm like, just because I believe in this stuff doesn't mean I don't love Jesus. I love me some Jesus now.
So to say that paranormal occurrences, whether it be ghosts, spirits, are excluded from reality if you're a Christian, I think that's very close-minded.
Narrow-minded, yeah.
Because if you're saying you're a Christian, you're believing that Jesus walked on water. You're believing that he performed miracles, that he healed people miraculously, that he rose Lazarus from the dead. You believe that Mary was visited by Gabriel. You believe that...
We're getting deep now.
You believe that Isaac was saved by God's hand from being killed by Abraham. You believe that God spoke to Moses and gave him the Ten Commandments. So you're believing all these paranormal, supernatural events. So how can you rule out other experiences
or possibilities
that are outside of the timeline of the Bible?
It makes you think.
So I think that to take that stance of, if you're a Christian, you can't believe in ghosts or spirits or supernatural phenomenon, is very narrow-minded, and I think that it actually discredits a lot of what happens in the Bible.
Right. This is not a religious podcast, but this was a question, so we're answering honestly on how we feel. Daniel and I have different beliefs when it comes to spirits, and he's a little bit more open-minded than he used to be. But I have run up on this one a lot lately with just people questioning me and my Christianity. And it's like, and I know who posted this question, and we've talked about it. And she knows I get very, almost not my feelings hurt, but it's insulting to almost be labeled somebody who's not a Christian just because of what I talk about. And it's like, you don't know me.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't know me. You don't know my relationship with my religion and Jesus and God. Just leave me alone.
Yeah, so
let me do me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still very on the skeptical side, because my go-to is
logic.
Let's find a logical, rational explanation, right? And that's kind of where I am with the house. I know that's one of the questions coming up.
That's the next question.
And
how does your husband feel about the house now?
So it's not that there couldn't possibly be rational, logical explanations for what we've experienced in this house, but there's been a cumulative effect of all these small things happening that are just a little bit beyond coincidence.
They can't be explained. We can't explain them.
You could find logical reasons. I'm just saying, each individual event.
There's a bug in the closet.
Each individual event.
Have you seen the bug? Have you seen the giant cockroach that lives in your closet setting your motion light off? Because I surely haven't.
Can I finish?
Sure. Go ahead.
I'm not saying that I am. I think that I've made that clear that I'm not. But I'm saying the argument could be made for each individual instance to have some type of logical, rational explanation. But when I think when you step back and take the 30,000 foot view and you add all those things together, it is beyond the explaining it away. And I think when you have to explain away every individual instance and you can't explain the overall cumulative effect, then I think you have to recognize that there's something going on that you can't necessarily explain.
This house is weird.
And that's where I am with the house.
The house is actually a lot more normal lately. It's been very quiet. It's actually very nice. The energy shifted. I still don't like going upstairs. I still don't like going in that room. I've considered painting it again, and maybe that will help. Let's throw some paint on it. But yeah, the house is a lot better than it used to be, but it is one of the weirdest houses I've ever lived in, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely say that. I would definitely agree with that 100%.
So I think these next questions are more directed at me. I know who asked all these too. So I think these are more directed at me, but you're more than welcome to answer.
I'll do my best.
We're pushing an hour, which I don't have a time limit because I'm my own producer. But what is your first paranormal experience? Mine was after my grandfather died. I was 13 years old and I was dealing with my first death and trying to wrap my head around the finality of death. And my grandfather, this was not Papa Sam, this was my mom's dad. We were not very close. And I didn't really understand my feelings towards losing him because even though I was upset and I was mourning, I wasn't devastated because we weren't very close, like I said, but I was sad and he wasn't always very nice to me. Yeah. And so it was a very confusing feeling when he passed away. He had a very distinct smell, no smell that would be in a 13-year-old girl's room. I think it was like Brute.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden my whole room smelled like him. And I mean, he was such a distinct military man with just regimen of hygiene. And it was his smell. And it was overpowering. And it was right next to my bed, on my bed. And I was in my room. And I remember just feeling very calm and very at ease with how it was feeling. Like it was okay that I was confused. It was okay that I was sad, but not devastated. And that is the last time I've ever smelled him. That was the first and last time after he died that I smelled him. And that was my first paranormal experience that I could not explain.
Yeah, I would say, and I think I've told you about this, so when I went to Kuwait, I went with 32 other guys, and we relieved the 32 guys that were on the boat. And one of those guys, when he came back to the States, got stationed on the large tug. The large tug was going around Cape Hatteras. He fell overboard.
Right.
And died. Well,
Did they ever find him?
They never found him. When I got back from Kuwait, I got put on that boat.
Right.
And the boat was just finishing up all the investigations because of his death. And so they were basically putting a whole new crew on that boat. And I was part of the new crew. And we always had to pull watch on the boat.
Which means 24-hour shifts, right?
Yep, 24 hours. And during the day, obviously everybody's there working. But then once after 5 o'clock, everybody leaves. And so you're there by yourself from 5 o'clock in the afternoon until 9 o'clock the next morning.
Right.
And I'm sitting down in the cruise mess watching TV, and you can see from your right side up the hallway in the center of the boat, which is a narrow hallway.
Right.
And I'm sitting there. It's probably, 2, 3 in the morning, and I get this just eerie sense out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there, and I can't say for sure that I saw him standing there visually. And I can't say for sure that it was him, but I definitely did. I just got cold chills. I definitely did not feel like I was alone. And
did you know him personally?
I met him when we were in Kuwait because the changeover, that's why I brought that up. The changeover takes 2 weeks. We got there and we're there for 2 weeks. And they're taking us to the boat, showing us where things are,
right?
Showing us what they've done, what needs to be finished and completed that they haven't finished. And so he was one of the guys that I was with. It was like me and 2 other guys. So there was like 3 of us and 3 of them. They got paired together. And so we spent those 2 weeks together.
Interesting.
It wasn't like, when I think back on it, even then, it wasn't like a malevolence or anything. It was
just probably heavy.
It was this sense of I'm not alone, but the sense I got from whatever I was feeling was confusion. And he went overboard in the middle of the night in rough seas and hit his head, and don't know if he was knocked out, but he was just out there floating in the middle of the ocean. Yeah. And so it was just this sense of confusion. Is what I felt.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Way to bring it down.
Sorry. But that's definitely the first real experience I've ever had. Sorry.
No, you're good. Do you own any specific ghost hunting equipment? No.
Do not.
No. I do not. I own my senses and the motion light in the closet. Yeah. I have thought about it, but so our son really likes this kind of stuff. And he has asked me personally, because I've been honest with my experiences. He finds it fascinating. And I know he's confused and fascinated at the same time.
Sure.
And he knows I allow him to talk openly about it. And I don't minimize his feelings ever. And so he's asked me, do you ghost hunt? And I've told him before, and this took him by surprise. I said, I don't go searching for them. They find me. And it's true.
Yeah.
I have been in places before, and all of a sudden I know I'm not alone. It is like in my courthouse. There's things that happen. When I was in Spruce Pine, North Carolina, we were in that antique store. I walked in and the light above my head just started flickering.
The one with the creepy dolls?
Oh, the creepy dolls and the creepy baby carriage.
That was in Hendersonville.
No, that was in Spruce Pine when we went with Emily and Justin for our anniversary.
There's one in Hendersonville, though, remember?
Oh, yeah. That was the one with the creepy dolls.
That was the one with the creepy dolls. That one was, we had to get out of there.
Yes. It felt sickening.
Yeah.
We walked upstairs and I said,
The main floor is okay. The downstairs was a little creepy, but the upstairs was a whole different vibe.
Even Isaiah was like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah,
we were all like, we need to get out of here. It was dark. That store shut down in Hendersonville.
Yeah.
And so, I do not own anything. I have thought about it, like I said, but then I'm like, I don't know. I really would like a spirit box. It's the static and it kind of runs through AM stations backwards and you can hear voices come through, like if you ask questions. And I would really like one of those, but then I freak myself out and I don't get one.
Yeah.
I always freak myself out because I'm like, never mind.
Oh, here's a fun fact.
Uh-oh.
Every radio transmission that has ever been transmitted is still traveling through space.
What?
Yeah.
How do you know this stuff?
It's just a frequency, a radio frequency.
That's wild.
It's still traveling through space.
My husband knows all the weird things.
Just like the light from the stars we're seeing, those stars may no longer exist.
That I knew. Okay, well, here's one. I have mixed feelings about this, and I probably know your answer, but you might surprise me. Would you ever be open to having your home professionally investigated? I have a feeling you'll say no.
No, I wouldn't be like gung-ho and excited about it, but I wouldn't say no if you wanted to do it. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it would be interesting, but I wouldn't be like, yeah, let's do it. I wouldn't be excited about it.
Yeah, I have mixed emotions. I know my friend that asked these questions, like she's asked me before, and I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, why? And this is why she's asking, because I opened the door. But it's kind of that validation, whether I'm going crazy or whether there is something here.
Well, to me, it's like, do I really want somebody searching around our house? And then it's kind of an intrusive thing.
I can see that. See, I don't care. I'm an open book. So I'm like, let's start a podcast about it.
Except when I let the plumber in.
Dude. I didn't know, but nobody was home, and my daughter was on her way home on the bus. Okay. There's that fact that you missed.
I get it. But I'm just saying.
A strange man in my house. He opened the garage. Come on in. And my daughter's on her way home on the bus, and there's a plumber in my house, and my daughter has no idea. And I have raised my daughter, stranger danger, panic, run away. And my husband's like, oh, here we go. I'll open the garage for you. Come on in. My wife's underwear's in the top drawer. Just come on in.
Well, what do you think the ghost hunters are going to do?
They're not going to go through my underwear drawer, and I'm going to be standing right here. Do you think I'm going to let somebody go through my house?
But you're sitting right now.
Where would you haunt if you were a spirit? My sister always says if she passes away before I do, she's going to come back and tickle my toes. Gotta love her. I think I would just stay with Daisy. Or you.
If I was gonna haunt somebody, like more of like a malevolent, tricky, play tricks on people, because I wouldn't be mean, but I would mess with people.
You are a pain in the ass.
I would definitely mess with people.
Yeah, he's a giant pain in the ass. I love him dearly, but good Lord.
But like the first thing that comes to mind is like the State House, the Senate.
Oh my!
Congress.
Of course.
Like those people just go totally mess with all the politicians. Like move their stuff around, shuffle their papers, just pull their chairs out from underneath them, that sort of stuff. Whatever I could do.
See, here I am. I'm like, me and my sister are going to tickle my daughter's toes, and you're like, I'm going straight to the Congress.
I'd want to mess with people. I just want to like crack myself up.
You do crack yourself
up. As I do in life. But I think let me go on. I think that I would.
Excuse me.
I think that I would also like to be able to comfort my family and generations of my family that are to come.
I like that. That's nice.
But also mess with them too.
Okay, yeah. Tickle their toes. No toes will be safe. We will tickle them. Why don't you want to know what's in Daniel's closet? See,
she thinks she already does know.
I already do know what's in there. So my two theories about the closet, one, it's a portal. And I know that's crazy. That goes right up to the top of what is one of the craziest concepts of paranormal that my brain will entertain. But that closet is a weird place. Like it is small. It has a weird vibe. I don't like it. I like it shut at all times. If it's open, I feel like I'm being watched. When that light comes on and I'm just sitting there by myself, I'm like, what's up, Freddie? But like, I believe that his grandmother hangs out in there. And I know that sounds crazy, but I believe Freddie's in there. The moment he put that jersey in there is when that light started coming on its own. Would you agree?
It was going on before then.
Was it?
Yes.
But was it?
It was.
You know, you don't know.
I do know. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
But it did not start coming on right away on its own when we put it in. It wasn't instant. It took some time before it started coming on.
It was definitely before I got the jersey.
I got you that jersey last year for your birthday.
Yeah. And we moved in 2022, and that light was put up shortly after we moved in.
It wasn't shortly after. I can track it back. It's on my app. I can track it back.
Yes, it was.
I will get back to you, everybody, and let you know when we bought that light.
I said early on, I need a light in this closet, and I do know. Just because you disagree doesn't mean that I don't know.
Oh, he's getting feisty, everybody.
I can tell you for a fact.
He's got his sassy pants on.
I can tell you as a matter of fact.
A matter of fact.
That light was coming on before that jersey ever got put in that closet.
Okay. He's going to die on that hill.
I am.
But yes, I believe it is Freddie.
I believe it is too. But.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I do. But.
It's a weird sense. It's a different sense that comes from the closet. It's not.
I will say this. It's a different sense since that jersey's been in the closet.
I still don't like the closet. And it's not that I don't like Nanny. I hope she likes me. But I don't like the closet. It's a weird feeling. You know, I had issues with my closet.
You couldn't fit any of your clothes or shoes in there, so you never liked that closet from the time you looked at the house.
Jeez.
You're like, that doesn't even make any sense there.
It doesn't make any sense. It is the smallest non-functional closet ever. But
so you've always had beef with that closet.
Moving on. But yes, I have a feeling it's Freddie, or if it's a portal, I don't know, but it's a weird place. All right, so this is for me, what is your favorite part of being sensitive to the paranormal? Honestly, just feeling like I'm still connected to the people that I've lost and that I love. It is comforting. When I'm standing there talking to my grandfather or to Catherine and I feel like they're there, like even having Wayne in the house sometimes, he's not always a son of a bitch. Like he's not always a bastard. Some days it's nice not being alone. And I think he's like, sometimes like when we painted this room, I felt like he was very happy with this room. And I could almost feel like he was like, okay. Like, or with the basement, I think he was happy with what we did in the basement. I think he doesn't like the yard, but I think
they're not messing up my house. We're
trying to take care of it.
Like he did.
Right. And I think that it's nice. Because some days I love to be alone, but sometimes when I walk in and I say, hey, ghosties, I'm home, and like a light comes on or something like that happens, it's like I'm not alone. But on the flip side of that, the bad part is the sleep paralysis. It's when I try to sleep in the guest room and it's really dark and it's making me violently sick or giving me a migraine. That's the bad part. When it's too much and they won't leave me alone and I've set my boundaries and my intentions and it just won't stop. And then I have to have a panic attack and throw holy water and start cussing them out. And I look like a crazy woman. And my kids are like, she has lost it.
So even though this question isn't necessarily for me, I would say the thing that I like about all this is that I guess, and in the past, it's always kept me open to the possibilities of the world around me and reminded me of how big our world and our universe really are. And it just really gives a frame of reference of how fleeting our time is and how really, and I mean that, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but how our individual existence is just a blip, and really the only word I can think of right now is insignificant in the grand scheme of everything.
I understand.
And that's not meaning that our lives are not important and insignificant.
No, I understand what you're saying.
When I think about being in the right frame of mind and having the right context about my existence in life and the world around me, I feel better when I know that I'm in the right context, when I'm understanding that the world around me is bigger than I can ever imagine, when there's things that happen that are completely unexplainable or unknowable, that really, I don't know, in a way it gives me hope.
Well, I think that's good too, because it's also humbling.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
It's good to remember that the world is not revolving around you.
Yeah.
That there's other things going around and it's bigger. There's a bigger picture than just you.
Yeah.
And then to finish it up, and I like that this is our last question that we're ending on. What do you wish people who were interested in learning about the paranormal knew? And I don't know everything, so I don't really know what I wish people would know, but I just wish people would be more open-minded and not so scared of it, because I really find it comforting in a lot of ways, but I wish people would just be more open-minded to, a lot of things, but especially with energies and vibrations and that sense and following their intuition. And if they feel like they're not alone, instead of just dismissing it, being like, what is this? What am I feeling? Because I think there's a lot more sensitive people. They say that you have that sixth sense and that a lot of people are just closed off to it. And if we opened up and didn't discount those gut feelings or those senses that we are feeling, I think a lot more of us could sense things or feel it. But feeling is scary.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah. So I just wish people were more open.
Yeah, I think for that, because that's exactly what I was thinking. But as you were describing that, I just thought about our interaction during this, when people open themselves up to other possibilities and they don't think of things as scary or frightening or intimidating. It creates a closeness, it creates communication. And so when people close themselves off to possibilities, they're closing themselves off to a lot of things: relationships, communication, closeness. So
we used to fight.
We still do fight.
No, when we moved into this house, you were very closed off to how I was feeling. And I took it very personal because I was like, you are discounting my feelings. And I was overwhelmed with everything that was going on because I was the only one experiencing it that first year.
Well, I will say this.
He put his hand up.
There was a lot going on in our lives at that point. And so I wasn't ready just to say, okay, this is the cause of everything, because it wasn't. There was a lot of other factors going on, and me being not the logical one, but I think logically. I was going to say, ouch. I think logically. Damn. I think logically and rationally as kind of my natural go-to. When as
my head whips around and I stare at him.
When I'm thinking about this. So when I we were going through that, I'm thinking, okay, I understand that, but there's all these other factors that are playing into this and that are maybe more of a factor of what you're feeling and experiencing, but I didn't know how to communicate that to you. So it came off as me being dismissive, came off of me as being unconcerned or uncaring. So, but yeah, I think that to answer this question, the unexplained, the phenomenon, the supernatural, it's not something to be afraid of. It's not something to be scared of. It's an opportunity for you to maybe crack the door of your box and take a look outside, crack the window and look outside and realize that the world around you and the people around you have different perspectives and bigger, and that you can use that as an opportunity to connect with people and things
and grow
outside of your box and grow.
Yep, and
exactly.
you can grow. You can grow your mind. You can grow your feelings. But yeah, that's all. That's all. I hate the vibration in this room. I got to fix it.
Got to get you some sound cones.
I got to get my curtains back up. That really helped. That's a big...
Because it's just bouncing off this glass.
Yeah. And it's not really you because you're facing the bed.
Yeah, it's like a speaker box. You put a glass over a speaker box so it reverberates. All about that bass. About that bass.
Oh, drama.
No treble.
Oh, it's not drama? I'm the best lyricist, aren't I, babe?
You are the worst at knowing lyrics of anyone I've ever met. What was the one on the going out of the cruise? Cocoa Puffs?
Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
Shimmy, shimmy, Cocoa Puffs.
Nelly. Yeah, y'all know, you listeners who are our generation.
Most of them.
Yeah, most of them.
If they're still listening. Hey guys, thanks for listening.
It's EI by Nelly.
EI. Are you sure? It's shimmy, shimmy, Cocoa.
No, it's shimmy, shimmy, take a puff. Pass it to me now.
Okay, I like my version better. But anyway.
Yours is definitely G-rated.
I'm TV PG.
No, you're G.
NR.
I'm TVMA.
Well, if you are still here, thank you for listening. And again, I will figure out my vibration and sound one of these days, but I really appreciate you listening. And if you have a moment, I would really appreciate, even if it's a pity review, a really good review.
Thank you. Let me know how my decibel level was, please.
My mom said you're very hard to understand sometimes, but she loves you so much. But it was your microphone. This is the first time Daniel's recording with a different microphone.
So give us some feedback on my country grammar.
On your, I was about to say on your country.
That's another Nelly reference.
Ayo, what's happening?
Stop. Just stop. Make it stop.
Never. That means I wouldn't be around and I'd be tickling your toes.
It's going to tickle my toes.
Oh, gosh. Thank you for listening.
Thank y'all.
And as always, we'll see you later.